I think you're most well known in regards to our audience, the Fenzi Dog Sports Academy. You've built this dog training program and empire and kind of these online courses and webinars and all this cool stuff. And I want to get into that. But when I looked at your stuff and a lot of the things you've written and what you're known for, it's very you're taking a very positive approach to getting behaviors out of dogs.
I find that my dogs are, like my 7-month-old puppy is exceptionally well trained. He knows so much stuff. So I think dogs move more quickly as a result of positive training. But it's a different picture. It doesn't look the same so getting to what you said, my emphasis that first few months now is foundation behaviors. And I never sat around trying to figure out how many that might be. But there's like 50 things I want to teach my puppies. I want to teach them to hold an object. I want to teach them to search. I want to teach them to use their nose and find something. I want to teach them to sit in front of me a certain way, to sit at my side a certain way. I need to teach them basic cues like sit down, stand. I want to teach my puppy to go away from me. So I'll put an object like a platform out. Go away to that. I want to teach my dog, come back to me. I wanted a really strong whistle recall this time. So these are foundation behaviors that a person could watch me run through 50 of them, or maybe there's 100, I don't know, and say, that's all fine, but I want to do dog sports. And I could then take those behaviors, string them together in different combinations, and do any dog sport. I could do field, I could do schützen if the dog had the temperament. So I tend to think really differently. I've got these, sometimes I call it like a 3-second behavior or a 10-second behavior. And I take all these behaviors and I put a lot of energy into them because they don't require a lot. So a retrieve, if you think about it, a retrieve is made up of a sit at your side, a stay, a standard distraction because you're going to throw the object, a fetch. So now on cue, you go out. Most of us have an opinion about what the dog does when it gets there. So I want my dog to pick it up quickly and turn fast and come back. I don't want my dog to chew. So that's a trained skill. Then I want my dog to sit either in front of me or at my side quietly and wait. And then I want my dog to give me the thing when I ask. So that's what, eight things, I think. Each of those I teach separately. I don't teach those as one long string. I teach them one at a time. And then one day I put 2 of them together, 3 of them together. And that part goes so fast. Where I struggle now, or where I have to work hard, isn't teaching the behaviors. In my backyard, my dogs are amazing. But what your dog does in your backyard has very little to do with what your dog does at the dog show. And this is, in my opinion, where a lot of people walk away from positive training. They think, okay, my dog did it in the yard, so now he knows it, so now I'm going to go out in the world and he's going to be amazing. And it doesn't work that way. Because if you didn't use suppression to get your dog's behavior, then your dog will not assume in a new place that there's no choice in the matter because you didn't teach it that way. So now you go out in the world and you say, okay, fetch, and the dog says, yeah, no, in a minute. First, before I fetch, I'm going to go ahead and visit that little dog over there in the corner. And has no sense that that's wrong because you didn't teach it that way. So rather than saying, as I did, I remember this, rather than saying, oh, it's time for me to straighten that out. Now I say, how about I teach you to fetch where you can see that dog over there, but she's too far away for you to really care. Oh, that looked really great. Now my dog has its first experience saying, oh, look, I did it in a new place. Admittedly, the new place is as sterile as I can come up with. So the time I spend now, I only spend 10% of my time teaching behaviors. I just whack through them. Whereas when I was young, I was spending 70 or 80% of my time teaching behaviors because I was using compulsion. So if I don't use compulsion, I can teach incredibly fast. But I spend 90% of my time generalizing those behaviors. Now I need you to do it in the presence of dogs and toys and people. I need you to do it when it's hot. I need you to do it when it's cold, on the grass, when it's wet. I need you to do it at a distance from me. I need you to do it when I give you one cue and I'm not holding toys or treats. And that's what takes the time, not teaching the behaviors. So it's just a different way. And there's also a huge amount of energy on arousal control. So in bite work, the traditional way of teaching bite work is to take the puppy out and for 6 months, you just literally teach them to lose their minds, right? You've got a person with a rag or sleeve, getting them as high as they possibly can, totally jacked up. So the dog sees bite work and loses it. Just crazy. Bite, 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 bite. Separately, people teach obedience, and then they try to put these together. Well, let me just tell you, that doesn't go very well. So if you've been using positive methods with your dog, and your dog sees the helper, and you say, sit for a cookie, the dog says, screw the cookie. I'm going. I'm going to go bite that person. And now you've lost everything. I don't teach that way. So from the time my dog is 8 weeks old, I teach the bite work and the control at the same time. So right now, I can, because I'll do my own decoy work, I can put on leg sleeves. I can have my entire training area littered with toys, and I can do 5 minutes of obedience, switch to bite work, and then switch back to obedience, because I taught them at the same time. If my dog starts losing his head and says, I don't want your cookies anymore, I just want to bite, well, that's information to me that we have to spend a little more time calming everything down. Get that back. Now we can do bite work so that the dog starts to understand we aren't going to work when you lose your head. If you're screaming and trying to get around me, we're not moving forward. And now at 7 months of age, I have a dog who's really pretty willing to lay down and stay off leash, because I do very little on leash, and wait for the helper. And people say, yeah, but you're going to have no drive. And my response to that, any dog who's any good, any Malinois who's any good, any field dog who's any good, if you have to jack it up to get it to do the work, there's something wrong with the dog. I'm sorry. A good dog brings it to the table. You take a good golden retriever, good well-bred field dog. At 1 year of age, you show it a duck, and something inside its brain goes, my God, I've been waiting my whole life to see a duck. I didn't even know what a duck is, but I know what a duck is right now. You don't need to pump them up with wings on flirt poles. All you're doing is taking your good dog and teaching it to lose its brain. If you have a Malinois or a Belgian who doesn't want to bite a person in prey, I don't mean that aggressively, because I'm not the least bit interested in a personal protection dog. For me, it's a game. If my dog is not interested in the game of protection, I do have a problem, but it's not a training problem. I have a dog problem. This dog is not suited to the sport, and it's the least of my problems. My problem is getting the dog to calm down, not to pump the dog up. I mean, when do you go to a field trial and see a dog who says, no, thank you, I'll just stay in the car? Like, that doesn't happen. What happens is you can't get to the line because they're out of control, right? So that started at 8 weeks of age, when people taught the dog to be wild and crazy and chasing everything in the field, and then they're surprised when at a year of age, the dog says, I don't really want to do your obedience. And then they come back and they say, see, this is positive stuff doesn't work. No, the positive is fine. What happened is what you did is you took your dog out of balance. So you should be balancing your dog. You balance that field work with the control, and you practice right from the time they're 10 weeks old. Like, yeah, I'll let you chase if you do this set of things. But if you lose your brain and you don't respond to my whistle, well, that's information for me. So we're going to change our plan. And if you train that way, even if you use compulsion, you'll end up using a lot less, because your dog will understand how to think and how to calm down. So yeah. I'm way past the point of running around being evangelical, telling everybody not to. I don't do that anymore. I train the way I train. I train as well as I can. I hope you train as well as you can, and the next person. But I would like to see it be kinder. So if people think this way, then training becomes kinder.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely a trend of moving that way and understanding the working relationship and really developing that bond versus you're going to do this because you're scared of me. No, it's you're going to do this because we work together and we both love this thing. I want to back up a second because you said something I really, really want you to touch on a little bit more. When you were talking about the backyard training, and okay, this dog's rock solid here, and then you take it to a new environment and immediately the wheels fall off. We touch on this a lot about location and distraction training. But the way you said it was the dog goes over and wants to check out that little, the little fluffy dog over there, or go sniff this, or the geese are flying over or something, and it's not on task anymore. And you said that dog doesn't know it's doing something wrong. And that's a big thing. Like I think a lot of people, a lot of amateur handlers, immediately you're going to revert to being angry at that dog for not doing what it's supposed to do. But if the dog doesn't know it's breaking the rules or doing something wrong, then you punish it. And the whole thing is a downward spiral that's not going to work very well.
Yeah. What I say is, imagine if you took your child who's practicing their multiplication tables and you took them to Disneyland and you said, well, before we do Disneyland, why don't we do our multiplication tables? Your kid's going to be like, are you crazy? Like, it's a time and a place problem, right? It's not that when they're older, they might not want to do that, might not be interested in practicing a skill or reading or something. But you want to get your time and your place right. And with a puppy, I really do work hard to emphasize, I do everything in my power to make training with me, time with me, so incredibly valuable that by the time the distractions and the intensity is way high, the reinforcement's way low, there's a lot of stress in the kind of competitions I do, I want the dog to have such a habit and such a love of working for me that it wouldn't even really occur to them to choose an alternative. And they do get there. I mean, I've had some very good dogs under some pretty hard conditions, and I truly don't think it occurs to them. It's kind of like I say, I would never swear at my parents. I don't even think I could. Like, I don't even think the words would come out because you don't do that, right? It's not because they did horrible things to me when I was young and I swore at them. I never did it because you don't do that. And that's how I look at it with my dogs. It doesn't really occur to them to do crazy things because they don't do those things. We set up patterns so that they're very successful. And so then they just don't, not because something good or bad will happen, because habit is powerful.
Mm-hmm. I noticed you had a blog post on something I've been thinking about a lot with our dogs, because if you look at the hunting dog world and the sporting dog world, and I'm sure it's very similar in the working dog world, it's easy to sort of look at it and go, these dogs are badass tools that are going to do this job over and over again. And that's my role is to teach them this and make sure that they comply. And then you had something on just developing play and having fun with dogs to further the relationship. And I kind of feel like especially a lot of hunting dog trainers kind of portray this, like the dog comes out of the crate, works, goes back in the crate, and that's it. And there isn't any fun there, or maybe there's like a fun bumper at the beginning, a fun bumper at the end, but that's it. But you know as well as I do, when you spend time with a dog and have fun, not just working, but actually have some fun with the dog in a way that the dog enjoys, that relationship changes it goes to a better place. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, actually, I had a dog named Reika. I lost her a year ago. She died. And she's a very successful competition dog and a little bit famous. And she retired when she was 10 or so. And she was my dog, right? She liked me. She didn't like anybody else. She was my dog. Very fond of this dog. And then, so she retired and I wasn't working with her anymore. And so she got fat. Went to the vet for her old dog checkup and she was 10 pounds overweight. And I was, truly appalled that a dog trainer would let their dog. I just thought she was a little fluffy, right? Because she's a coated dog. I thought, oh, just a little fluffy. And so, okay, well, that's not acceptable. So I started walking her every day, 4 miles every day. And for a year, she was on a diet. And there was no expectations in these walks. And I would go where she liked to go. And over the next 3 years, I started writing about her on Facebook. And I gave her a voice, so she would talk and she would give her opinion. And I got to tell you, I always loved that dog, but I loved her so much by the time she died. And so much of that was watching her and what it is to be a dog. It's amazing. Dogs are amazing. And watching where she would sniff, like I remember one day I was walking through this tunnel of trees and there was a man coming out, which is unusual. And he came up and he said to me, shh, be quiet. And he walked over to me and he said, I just saw 2 mountain lions cross through that tree tunnel. And he showed me his video camera. And indeed, there were 2 mountain lions. And so, of course, that's amazing in and of itself. But he went on his way. And what I noticed was my dog has shown me that before. Because when we got to the point in there where he had told me they were, her behavior changed dramatically. And I realized I've seen that before in my dog. And I started to realize how much a dog knows that I don't know and can never know about the world. And I started watching her in a different way and so valued that time. And it really got me slowing down because I'm pretty intense. I'm busy and intense and it's hard for me to slow down. And that dog, she started saying every day, it's time for our walk. And I would say, just wait. And she'd be like, no, I'm not waiting. And she got pushy and impatient. She lost her manners. She started counter surfing. she got bad. By the time she died at 15, she had no rules whatsoever, partly because she was pretty demented at that point. But watching her do what she wanted to do because she had done everything for me for a lifetime, and now she's going to empty the trash. That is what she's going to do. And she's going to be a bad dog, and she is going to go for her walk. And if I don't take her, she's going to sit in front of me and bark and tap and whine. I think that experience, it was dramatic for me to realize this is all this dog wants from me. It's just a walk every day. Otherwise, everything I want is mine. And she gave me so much for so long. And I can't believe that she thought it was fun being crated for 8 hours at a dog show so I could do this thing. I mean, she gave me so much. And I think that retirement period is when I realized how amazing dogs really are. And then I started thinking how sad it is that there are people who've never had a dog as a pet, like as a pet, not as you get a race car so you can do events, yeah, or a motorcycle so you can race. To have a dog as a friend, as a companion, is a completely different thing. And I really got that from that dog. I actually have turned those stories into a book, which is coming out in a month. It's called Conversations with Reika. And I think a lot of people who compete with their dogs, who also have them as pets, they live in the house and their pets are really going to relate to that book. Because I tried to show it from her point of view, what life was like for her, and not always about me. And Reiko's very fond of saying, it's not all about you. And then also just dealing with the difficulties of end of life. It's very hard, right? When every day you're looking at the dog saying, is there enough quality of life here at this point, right? Asking yourself this every day. So I really explore that, what it's like to lose a companion that means a lot to you. And also that transitioning from, it's all about me and my competition and my goals, which mean a lot to me. And my dog loved playing my game. And then transitioning to, well, actually, it's about us. And that whole experience, I think, will impact every dog I have from this day forward. And I relish that time, that retirement time.